So, welcome to Jumbo Eyes and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover that day's newspaper in a short span of time within 20 minutes. Now, today we are going to be discussing 6th August 2024's newspaper. So, let's straight away jump to the important news items of today's newspaper. Okay, let's straight away jump to that. Now, let me tell you in advance, today's newspaper was full of Sheikh Hasina and Bangladesh crisis. Almost all the articles everywhere in each and every newspaper were full of Bangladesh crisis, Sheikh Hasina, history, what lies in the future, how can India prepare for this new Bangladesh. Everything was about Bangladesh. Okay, so we have dedicated two news items, two articles from Bangladesh, which we are going to be discussing in today's lecture. Okay, number one is the introduction is army takeover in Dhaka. Then we'll talk about India's challenges. What challenges lie ahead of India in engaging with Bangladesh now? Because India has a lot of stakes in Bangladesh, and Sheikh Hasina was quite India friendly. But now the opposition parties, which are going to replace Sheikh Hasina, won't be that friendly towards India, and they would be more close to Pakistan and China. So we'll be talking about all these issues in the first two articles. Then third, we'll talk about market crash and fall in rupee. Rupee vis-a-vis dollar has fallen to its lowest in its history. Okay, 84 rupees something. It is the lowest level rupee has ever touched. Plus, Sensex and Nifty crashed yesterday. So, what were the reasons behind this market crash? And because of this market crash, there was this fall in rupee. So, we'll be taking a look at this crisis as well. All right. So, without further ado, without any further introduction, let's straight away jump to the Bangladesh crisis. Army takeover in Dhaka. Okay. As you can see in this photo, Sheikh Hasina resigned as prime minister and left Bangladesh along with her younger sister, Sheikh Rehana. And she had to leave because the number of protesters was quite large and they had turned violent. Okay. So the security forces must have told Sheikh Hasina that they won't be able to protect her. And that is why. Now she landed in India, New Delhi, and from there onwards, I think she would be seeking asylum in London. Okay. Now the chief of Bangladesh Army, General Wakar ur Zaman, he appealed for peace and calm and he said that he is going to form an interim government. Okay, so military will form an interim government till the time a new democratic government is elected in Bangladesh. Now, what led to her ouster? And this unceremonious ouster. She didn't lose any elections. She was forced protesters to resign and flee for her life. Now, what were the factors responsible for this? Look, the immediate factor was the recent protests that have been happening for 2 weeks now, more than 2 weeks also. The recent trigger for these violent protests were job. Okay. Now, what is this issue? In Bangladesh government jobs, there is this 30% quota for descendants of freedom fighters. Okay. Now, who were freedom fighters for Bangladesh? Well, those who fought Pakistan in the Bangladesh Liberation War of 1971. Okay. So, 30% quota is reserved for their descendants. All right. In government jobs. Now, government jobs, like in almost all South Asian countries, are quite desirable. Okay. Now, this 30% quota was removed in 2018. But it was recently restored by Bangladesh's Supreme Court, and the students came out in streets to protest against this. Now, the government actually handled it with a little brutality and dictatorial tendencies, and that's why the protesters swelled up. Okay, and we have discussed the entire reason for this. Okay, we have discussed this issue in its totality in previous current affairs lectures. So I'll just mention the job quota was the immediate trigger, but this was just the immediate trigger. The fuel was there. This job quota thing acted like a fire. It acted like a matchbox. Okay, a matchstick, right? Fuel was already there. Now, what was the fuel? First of all, Sheikh Hasina has been, people or opposition, many people opposing her, they intended that Sheikh Hasina has been a little dictatorial. Sheikh Hasina was blamed for jailing opposition party members. The largest opposition party, BNP, Bangladesh Nationalist Party, she jailed most of its leaders, Jamaat-e-Islami also. And she has also been blamed for rigging national elections. So she has been blamed as an authoritarian. Then there was this economic crisis also. And now you would understand why people are so emotionally attached to this job quota thing. Well, Bangladesh's economic success was dependent on textile exports. Bangladesh became a textile export giant in the world. Okay, and its economic miracle and its economic rise in the recent times is because of this industry. Now, because of COVID-19 pandemic, exports declined, and Bangladesh, being dependent on this, also declined economically. Many people were laid off from their factories. Many workers lost their jobs. Right. Plus, after COVID-19 pandemic, also the demand for Bangladeshi textile exports didn't come back to that extent as it was before the lockdown. Okay, and that is why Bangladeshi taka, Bangladeshi currency fell 40% against US dollar. Inflation is as high as 10%. External debt crossed 100 billion. So economic crisis was actually the main reason. This just added fuel to the fire. The fire was already there, but this immediate trigger of job quota actually flared up. And that's the main reason. All right. Now, this is in brief, this is the entire crisis, or this is what you need to know about Bangladeshi crisis. Okay, you don't need to get into finer details until and unless you're interested in this issue. If you're interested, well, you can. But if you're not, then that's about it. Now we'll talk about and straight away jump to what are the challenges for India. Okay, Dhaka crisis. Because you have to realize Sheikh Hasina is seen to be a secular force in Bangladeshi politics. Okay, she has been the secular face of Bangladeshi politics and she has been pro-India. Throughout her life, her father was also pro-India, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. But the opposition parties, BNP, Bangladeshi National Parties, and Jamaat-e-Islami, they have been pro-Pakistan. And they have some Islamist communal tendencies. They don't, they're not that friendly towards India. Now Sheikh Hasina has been ousted out of power, and most probably these two parties will come to power, and this is very bad news for India. Okay, anti-India Islamist forces would come to power in Dhaka. Let's see what will happen, but this is how it seems right now. Now, New Delhi faces few new challenges in this area. Number one, Sheikh Hasina has been a friend to India, so her safety and security is of utmost priority. She has been flown to India, and from there she'll seek asylum. So as of now, she's in India. Plus, India has a lot of stakes in Bangladesh. Now, India has to see how it will engage with opposition leaders who are pro-Pakistan and anti-India. How India will engage with these opposition leaders to protect its interests in Bangladesh. Then, when Sheikh Hasina was in power, and it has been 15 years since Sheikh Hasina has been in power, various terrorists in northeastern region used to conduct terrorist acts and they to Bangladesh for safe havens. But when Sheikh Hasina was in power, all their safe havens were destroyed. Okay, when BNP was in, all these terrorists, anti-India terrorists, had safe havens in Bangladesh. Now, Sheikh Hasina is gone. Maybe these terrorists would find safe havens in Bangladesh. Anti-India terrorists. Okay. Plus, into this entire crisis, this entire chaos would invite Pakistan, China, Turkey in the troubled waters of Bangladesh, Bangladeshi political space. They would definitely take opportunity or avail this opportunity. Plus, Bangladesh is India's neighbor in Bay of Bengal, and Bay of Bengal is part of Indian Ocean, and Indian Ocean is a part of a broader region called Indo-Pacific. Now, this crisis will have geopolitical ramifications in the Indo-Pacific. Now, India has to wait and watch how it will play out in the Indo-Pacific, because China is going to get involved, Pakistan is going to get involved, and Turkey is actually fishing in these troubled waters as well. Okay. Now, there are a few infrastructure projects which India and Bangladesh made jointly. These were joint Indo-Bangladesh infrastructure projects, which were very important for India's Act East policy, India's connectivity towards Northeast. Now, they are under jeopardy now. Okay? Infrastructure projects in danger. If a non-friendly enemy regime comes to power in Bangladesh, well, these infrastructure projects, which are quite strategic for India, would get jeopardized. Number one is Akhoda Agartala rail link. As you can see over here, Akhoda Agartala rail link, inaugurated in 2023. It would provide alternate route from mainland India to northeast. So from mainland India, if you want to go to northeast, you'll either pass this Chicken's Neck, very narrow corridor, or you can, if you want to travel to Tripura from Kolkata, you can straight away go from here, right? But because of Bangladesh, India has to first travel to, an Indian has to first travel to northeast and then come to Tripura. But now, because of Akhora Agartala rail link, any person from Bengal, Kolkata, can travel to Agartala. Agartala, basically. in 10 hours. Earlier the time was 30 hours. Okay. This Then there was this agreement to use Chittagong port and Mongla port for cargo movement in northeast. So India would use these ports of Bangladesh to move cargo and material in northeast. Plus Khulna Mongla port line was there. There were 5 operational bus routes between India and Bangladesh. Plus India and Bangladesh's trade relations were extremely flourishing. Okay, Bangladesh is India's biggest trade partner in subcontinent. India is Bangladesh's second biggest trade partner in Asia after China. Bilateral trade between the two is $13 billion, which is the largest in South Asian region. Bangladesh is the biggest export destination for Indian cotton also. India exports cotton, petroleum and cereals to Bangladesh. Bangladesh exports ready-made garments to India. Plus, as per the latest World Bank report, had there been a few free trade agreement, because India and Bangladesh were negotiating a free trade agreement, if that free trade agreement would have fruitified, well, then Bangladeshi exports to India would have risen by 297%, and Indian exports to Bangladesh would have risen by 172%. Plus, there would have been mutual investment treaties, mutual investments, all that stuff. The trade relations would have grown further. But now, future looks a bit bleak. Okay? Okay, enough of Bangladesh. Now, straight away, let's jump to third. Another bad news for India: market crash and fall in rupee. Now, the rupee slumped to an all-time low of 84.09 against US dollars following a sell-off in global markets. Sell-off in global markets means all the foreign investors, especially foreign portfolio investors who had invested in India, okay, and Indian stock markets, they sold off their investments and took their money back. Now, whenever foreign investors take their money back, it puts a depreciating pressure on rupee, and that's exactly what happened. There was a sharp downturn in equity stock markets due to foreign capital outflow. The word that is important is outflow. Always remember, whenever there is capital outflow from India, rupee will fall. Whenever there is capital inflow into India, rupee will rise. Now, what were the reasons behind this panic among foreign investors? Why did they sell off their holdings? First of all, Bank of Japan raised interest rates. Okay. Now, Bank of Japan raising interest rates means that Bank of Japan or Japan is not sure about their inflation data. Okay. And whenever interest rates rise in developed economies, well, foreign investors panic and they remove their investments from developing economies. So, whenever high interest rates are there in developed economies, developing economies suffer. Okay. Plus, there are heightened concerns over Chinese economy. Chinese economy is also not doing that well. So many exports to China would suffer. Many countries would suffer in that process. Then there are concerns that USA might dip into recession, because recently labor data came out from USA and was not that good, not encouraging. Plus, all the tech firms showed poor profit earnings in their previous quarter. So USA data, economic data from USA was not that good, and USA might in future going through a recession, and that made all the other foreign portfolio investors panic. Now, the important question is, who are foreign portfolio investors? Okay, so who are basically foreign portfolio investors? Look, there are two types of people. One are foreign direct investors, FDI, and the other is foreign portfolio investment, which is sometimes also referred to as foreign institutional investment. Now, FDI, what is FDI? FDI is that investment which comes to India for longer periods of time. For example, I want to establish a company in India, then I'm bringing foreign investment, foreign direct investment. I want to establish a business in India, foreign direct investment. I want to do a joint venture with Reliance, foreign direct investment. But if I'm bringing money into India to trade in India's stock market, just to make profit from India's stock market, well, then I'm not here to do business in India. I'm just here to make money. That is foreign portfolio investment. Okay, so this is more of short-term profit making, and this is long-term business making. You're here to stay. So FPI refers to purchase and holding a wide array of foreign financial assets by investors seeking to invest in a country outside their own. So American buying financial assets in India would be considered foreign investment for India. Okay, FPI for India. Now, what are these financial assets? Well, foreign investors can buy stocks, bonds, mutual funds, derivatives, fixed deposits, anything. These are financial assets. Now, this FPI or FIIs are regulated by Securities and Exchange Board of India. Okay, and that's about it. That's all you need to know about today's news. The more important news was about Bangladesh. Everything about the Bangladesh crisis was covered in the newspaper. So there was not enough space for other news items. Maybe tomorrow other news items would feature in tomorrow's newspaper, but today's news items were dedicated towards this picture. And it's not a pretty picture for Indians. Let me say that. Okay. On that note, I'll be signing off. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And I'm sure it added value to your preparation, though it would add more value, like I say this in every lecture. It would add more value if you are regular, consistent with this lecture series. All right. On that note, I'll be signing off, and I'll see you tomorrow with newspaper. Thank you.